When I was a kid, I really wanted a quad when I was like 10, let's say, but I didn't have one. But my grandma had a riding mower, and she actually taught me how to mow. That was the first lawn mowing I had ever done. I didn't do a push mower to start with, but she let me drive her riding mower and mow that, and I absolutely loved it. Primarily because I was just visualizing and imagining that I was driving like a quad the whole time, and but it didn't take very long before I really enjoyed the mowing just for the sake of mowing. And if you've done this much, you understand. But it's a great smell. You're smelling that cut grass. It's really satisfying getting these like nice clean um, trim lawns looking just so tidy. And and on a riding mower, it's not it's not a ton of exertion. You're just riding the mower, and push mowers and other types of landscaping are just as fun for the opposite reason. Sometimes the exertion and the work feels really good, and running a weed eater and pushing a mower and having a beautiful lawn to showcase when you're done is really satisfying. So I like landscaping, I like mowing yards, I like yard work, all of it. In fact, on Saturdays, generally speaking, that's what I like to do, is just stay home and work on the yard, in the season when it's that time of year. I don't know a ton about it. I watch YouTube. There's a lot of guys sharing tips on how to get better grass and all that. So I'm not an expert. I'm just a hobbyist. I started doing lawn work and paying attention to my yard when I bought my first house and had to buy a mower. And I started going to the store, Mow Power, to get tools and equipment and rent machines when I needed to, do specialty tasks in the yard, like aerating it, or I rented a stump grinder once. And this store, Mow Power, I always loved it. It was tiny. It was always packed, like just tons of people in there. And the parking lot was really small, but you could tell it was mostly, at least in my mind, mostly pros, or at least there was a lot of pros there. This is the place the pros went to get their saws and mowers sharpened and maintained, to buy new equipment. It was really cool, and I love the store, just for all of these reasons. I like work. I like and admire these craftsmen and these people who really are working hard every day. I'm not saying I wanted to trade them places, but I was saying when I would see them at Mow Power, I'd kind of salute. Also, the store was right on in Arizona. It was right on the road that led to the dump, where landscapers go to unload all their clippings and grass and brush and stuff. So it's super convenient because they could basically, on the way to the dump, drop off their material or their machines or whatever, or pick things up. It made a ton of sense. I love that aspect of it as well. Just like a perfect example of a great location for a great business. Most people just drive right past and wouldn't think about it, but like if you like mowing and you're interested in all of this, you probably paid attention if you were in Mesa, Arizona. Now, if you're just listening to this on your phone in a podcast, you're missing some footage that I took in when I was in Arizona a couple weeks ago of the new Mow Power location. It's amazing. It's kind of a whole story in and of itself of this new store, and there's more to it, which maybe you'll hear in this interview. But the interview we're building towards here is with Todd Taylor, who started Mow Power. That's this store I mentioned, and he still runs it. They've got a brand new location. It's not brand new. It's been open a couple years, but as he will explain, they opened in the middle of the pandemic, and so he doesn't feel like they've really had a chance to stretch their wings yet, and I'm sure he's right. But it is a beautiful store, and it's fun. It was fun for me just to go in there and look around. I didn't even buy anything, but I like seeing all these clean mowers, weed eaters, chainsaws, all of it. Really beautiful. So if you're just listening and you enjoy the interview, go back to YouTube. There's some cool footage that will give you context about the location. First of all, from the outside, look at this parking lot. It's just perfect for trailers. Not very many spaces, a mile in between all the spaces. So the old store, this is my first time seeing the new one, but their old one was just microscopic. I think you could fit one truck with a trailer. After that, you're out of luck. And so this is unbelievable improvement from the outside. I've already been inside here,
So I kind of know, but wait till you guys see this collection of equipment and mowers and chainsaws here. This is amazing. I'm in the market for a new trimmer, new string trimmer, weed whacker. So I've been kind of paying attention to all these models, and I came in here to get some more information as I try to decide between the Steel and the Echo product. And they actually don't have the one I've been kind of looking at, which is the 131, but they got a lot of other ones. And now my favorite part, just look at this pile of chainsaws here. That's their repair station back there, service. And then over there is the full display of the Echo equipment, little pile of Husqvarna rentals.
Well, that should give you an idea of what Mow Power is all about. I just love having those two big walls, Echo over here, Steel over here. It's like their equipment is like facing each other down as they compete to who can make the best weed eaters and chainsaws. Really great stuff. And that gives you some context for our interview, which is with Todd Taylor, who started Mow Power as just a lawnmower repair and sharpening service and has grown it into what you see here. It's a great story. We also talk about equipment in terms of gas versus battery and some of the innovations that are coming out and what it's like for him seeing these things over the years and what he recommends. Good stuff. So if you like mowing lawns, if you like landscaping, if you like power tools, if you like chainsaws, you will like this interview with Todd Taylor from Mow Power. Let's get into it. First off, thank you for taking the time out of your day. It looks like you're in the shop, so you probably got a lot of things happening. But thanks for joining us. I got a big list of questions here, and we'll get to kind of the Mow Power and how it came to be and all that. But I kind of want to talk about equipment first of all, because it seems like the newest equipment, batteries, electric, all of these things are showing up more and more. So can you speak to that a little bit? Is that really the future for landscape tools and equipment, or is that always going to be kind of just like a homeowner convenience feature?
Well, that's a time will tell situation, but for the most part, I think yes. I think the homeowners, for the average person that's got a small, lawn in the front and the back, I think battery equipment is the way the industry is going for sure. That's where we're seeing all of our even main gas manufacturers putting a lot of their energies, such as Steel. A lot of their focus is on battery because they see that coming. A lot of governments and stuff are making uh, governments, cities,
Yeah.
and municipalities are making their landscapers go to electric. So it's definitely coming. We're seeing the changes in the industry. Emissions are getting much more difficult to meet for the gas manufacturers. These units are running on about a quarter of the fuel that they did 20 years ago just to meet
Really?
emissions. So they run harder. They run, yes, they're
Oh.
and so it's kind of crazy where it's going. But to answer your question, yes, I think a gas powered lawnmower and weed eater in a small homeowner setting will be a rare thing in another 10 years.
So speaking about the change in the what you mentioned about fuel consumption, I know with vehicles, a lot of mechanics will say, like, 20 years ago the cars were better, they could be fixed, and yada yada yada. Is that true with weed eaters and lawnmowers as well? Were the mowers and let's say the gas ones from 20 years ago, better in a lot of ways? In other words, have these emission requirements degraded the, maybe not quality, but which ones do you prefer?
I think the equipment of 20 years ago ran cooler because of the fuel. It didn't have all the regulations put on it. So I think it was more durable.
Hmm.
The fuel that we run now has got ethanol in it. It breaks down fuel, it oxidizes it really quick, which leaves a varnish residue. And so when all of your fuel is going through a little tiny orifice to feed the machine, now that it's a quarter of the size, that it
Mhm.
used to be, it plugs up that much faster. So yeah, the equipment of years past were definitely at least perceived as more reliable because people didn't have the fuel things. Now, if you're good with your fuel and that kind of thing, they still hold up really well, and the manufacturers do the best they can to keep everybody happy. So
Are there, like, weed eaters or chainsaws from, let's say, the '90s that are still desirable, maybe for this reason, but they were maybe that was, like, as good as it gets in terms of a quality, long-lasting tool?
don't see it so much with weed eaters, but you do see that with some of the select products, like lawnmowers. Sensation mowers are a good example. They're the old brick lawnmower that you could drop out of your car going down the freeway and still mow the next lawn with it because they were so durable. Some of
Huh.
those are still followed. Some of the backpack blowers are still hot that you can get. So there are certain items that landscapers especially look for that
Huh.
are that way.
I think I've seen those sensation mowers. They're really different looking. What's the appeal there? Is it because the motors can't be
They're-
like that much better? And I'm sure they
No,
replace those. What's the appeal of those old things? Because they're also not self
it,
propelled, right?
no, no. They're super. It's just a great big aluminum solid deck, and there's nothing really to break on it. You have big 8-inch metal wheels on it with just bolts going through,
Huh.
and so no. As far as convenience, they're not. They're not. Most people wouldn't consider them desirable, but just for their simple durability, you just
Huh.
can't kill them. But yeah, the one of the appeals is they used to have a flip handle. So when you got to the end of your row, you just flip the handle over and mow with it facing the other way. So you didn't have to
Oh.
turn it around at each end. So a lot of the guys liked them for that.
Oh,
But
that makes sense. And I
uh,
guess I guess for
yeah,
the pros who are like dragging it in and out of a trailer, let's say like 8 times a day, that like you said, those wheels and that frame is a real bonus because they would those would be wear points that would wear out on a cheaper mower for a professional. I take it.
absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, you do replace just like you said. You replace the engines, but the guys just keep replacing engines on them, and
Yeah,
they like them. But the new mowers now have all the height adjustments. They've got
yeah,
self propel. They're lighter, so we are seeing those being less in demand than they used to be
I see.
when they first made the change. But there's still several things that fall into that category.
Do you guys work on old mowers like that for people who are wanting to, restore something back to its former glory, maybe like grandpa's mower, or is that just somebody's that should be a hobby and left there? Or do those things ever come into your shop for, work?
Absolutely. A lot of people normally it's not because it's cost effective to do. Normally there's sentimental value
Yeah.
to it.
Isn't
I
that
used to go out
yeah,
and chop wood with my grandpa with this saw. I want to
yeah,
still be able to use it, that kind of thing. So cost, it's not normally cost effective to do that, but we do get a lot of people that do that because they really either like the machine or it's got sentimental value
isn't
to it.
that wild how tools and anything really can get this sentimental value that's it's just real is the only way to put it, especially like motors, because in addition to being useful and like the feel of it, which you remember, but even like the sound, of a mower or a chainsaw or something is you can almost like my dad's saw. Like I know that saw from you know a mile away. It's like oh, there's dad just started a saw, and so mowers and I should say motors especially. Maybe that's why like cars and vehicles really have super heavy sentimental. Although they actually have good memories associated with them, but even chainsaws and mowers have sentimental value. Isn't that something?
Oh, it is. I think that goes everywhere. I had as dumb as it sounds, I had a socket that I lost a
Oh,
little while ago, and I was completely bummed out because it's a socket I've been using for 40 years, and I've had
wow,
it since I was young, and I've had hundreds of hours holding that socket. It's like I can't have lost it, and it's
wow,
stupid. It's a $5 socket, but
yeah.
I wanted. It's like that's not the point. Where is it?
So is
Luckily, I
it
found
gone?
it.
Did you ever find it?
No, no. It of course nothing drops when you drop it. It never
Yeah.
rolls into the open. It was tucked up underneath one of my boxes.
Wow.
So
So when did you so if you were using it 40 years ago, how old were you when you started working on motors? And is that kind of the inception of Mow Power? Was you were or maybe let's get to that point. So how did you
that
get into
socket,
yeah, how did you get into working on equipment like this? Maybe give us the story here.
yeah. Well, I've always liked. mechanical things that, growing up, I'd like to tear things apart. I haven't always been good at it. My family still laughs that they remember me washing my spark plugs or cleaning my motorcycle spark plugs with gas and soap, or water and
Soap
soap.
and water.
Sorry, so I hopefully I progressed a little from there, but um, yeah, I've always kind of liked mechanical things. But when I was 14, I was summer hanging out at the house, and I think I was driving my stepmom crazy, and she went to go get her lawnmower fixed. And while she was there, I don't know if they had a help wanted sign, or if she was actively looking to get me out of the house, but
Mhm.
she had a conversation with them. Hey, do you need some help down here? And they said, yeah, send your son in. And so I went in there, and I was a grunt at a little lawnmower shop at the age of 14. Maybe it was 15, but somewhere 14 or 15. And when I'd get done mopping the floors and sweeping and cleaning up after the guys, if I had any extra time, I had the owner's son of that company kind of took me under his wing and knew I liked the stuff, and so he would, with any time I had left over, he would let me go back and he'd show me how to fix things, and just kind of developed from there. I've had several mentors over the years that that I've gotten close to, and I'm very thankful for that. It kind of got me a start in it. But that
Wow.
that summer job when I was 14 is how I initially got into it.
So instead of mowing yards at 14, you were repairing and sweeping up the shop and kind of fixing them up. And then obviously you didn't start Mow Power when you're 15, but at some point later in your life, how did that work? You had this background with repairs and you kind of got more serious about it, or was it just a beeline from 14 and repairing them to opening your first shop?
No, I can give you just kind of a 5-minute
Yeah,
overview of,
I'd
of
love
kind
to.
of how things
Yeah,
how
I'd love to hear
things
it.
took place. So yeah, when I was young, obviously I worked for a couple years in the summers for that company, which was called Nick's Lawnmower. But also, I don't remember exactly why, but because of the schedule or whatever, I left them and then went to work for another company called K's Lawnmower. And I was about 17, I think, at that time, 17, 18. And the owner of that company, I still consider like a father. Still close to him. He still comes by and says hi, and I'm close to all of their family and stuff. So really cool.
Wow.
But so worked for them for a while, and then I worked for another company after that. I Again, a lot of this is due to scheduling. It wasn't because
Sure.
of me not being loyal to a company, but schedule and stuff. But I had to leave them. I actually served a mission for my church for a couple years in England, and then I came back and got into college
Oh,
and worked for another company after courses and stuff, and threw a paper route at 3 a.m. in the morning. Then
huh.
went to school after that, and then in the afternoons I worked at another company called Mesa Precision, for 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon, and kind of saw with them I was more of a parts counter guy
Uh-huh.
than mechanic, and so kind of saw different assets of different companies, how they did things, and doing different things for them. Just kind of got a little bit of an eye opening of how the industry works and that kind of stuff. And each one of those shops kind of had different fortes, if you will.
Oh,
So I got after that, after working on those, well, I was going to school, throwing that paper route, and I got a degree in business marketing out of ASU. And as I was wrapping that up, uh, was going to job fairs and that kind of thing, and they had um, a job fair at the grounds. Sorry, I'm repeating myself here, but didn't really care for some of the opportunities and stuff that I saw in front of me with my degree that I was getting close to finishing,
yeah.
and had a heart to heart with my wife and said, "What what do you think about me actually opening my own repair shop?" And my wife has always been extremely supportive of me, and she said, "Great." She's actually the one that found my first location while I was going to school, that we opened our first location at.
Wow.
So uh, it just kind of, yeah, it started there. It was an old Blockbuster building, and really small, probably 1,000 square feet. I didn't have any money to really start anything. I borrowed, I think, $5,000 from my dad,
Yeah.
and just got enough parts and enough tools in there to kind of start,
Yeah.
and did nothing but repairs. And we grew a little bit from there. I got a couple employees and went from 1,000 square feet. And then we broke out a wall in that building and took another 1,000 square feet. So we got to a couple 1,000 square feet and started doing a few more repairs. Picked up a couple product lines,
Huh.
so I had something to sell, and kept growing it from there. And we outgrew that building and went just a couple miles away. And so I went from about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet in that building to a 3,500 square foot building, also still in Mesa. And that was, I started that in 1996. October of 1996 is when I first started my first company,
Uh-huh.
or the company. And then in 2005, we opened our second location, that 35 square foot building. And then outgrew that building, and the building right next door to it had gone up for sale. And so we actually took over, actually we leased it, but we took over the building next to it. So we were actually running out of two side by side buildings, which is a little bit of a logistics nightmare, but we
Yeah.
made it work. But we went up to about 6,500 square feet, and back in about 2015 we were as funny as it is, we sell grass seed in the summer, and it's a real high volume item.
Yeah.
And so we actually, I had to go out and break up a couple fist fights in our parking lot because we had
Oh.
people waiting on the street to get
Oh.
into our company.
Wow.
And it was just, our parking was such a nightmare, and we were busting at the seams. We had equipment strewn out outside. It was rough. I just said, I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
And so that's when we actually started looking for a new building. And just a mile away had a 2 acre lot that we built into, and we used every square inch of this 2 acres. We've got about 18,000 square feet under
Wow.
roof at this building. Still could probably use a little bit more, but we're making it work. And so that kind of the progression, and I have a lot of the same employees at that very first building. About 2 years into it, because he's been with me about 23 years. A little shout out to my employee Devin,
Yeah.
but was went to a little cafe that is just down the street, and was sitting there and watching. And while I'm eating my breakfast, I've got all the uh, all the stuff going on around me, and the waitresses and the other busboys and stuff are kind of all sitting in the corner talking, and the customers are kind of getting neglected a little bit.
Yeah.
And one guy, I'm sitting there watching, and he's just running around trying to take care of everybody, covering for everybody else that's slacking off.
Oh, wow.
And on my way out, I just handed him a business card and say, "Hey, if things don't ever work out for you here, give me a call. I'd love to talk to you."
Huh.
And I got a call from him a week after that, and he came on with me, and he's been working with me for the last 23 years. One of
So
my
hold
one
on.
of my
He
best
was just a
employees.
customer on
He
that
was
day?
he was I'm sorry, I may not. No, he was a bus boy, but he
Oh,
was covering.
I'm sorry.
He
At
was
the
he
cafe.
was
Okay.
hustling at the cafe, but he was hustling trying to cover for
Got it.
everybody else that was slacking in the
He
place. And it's like,
got it.
that's the guy I need. He knew absolutely nothing.
Wow.
It's kind of funny when he came in. I one of the first days he came in, I asked him to pull off a carburetor
Yeah.
to teach him on that, and he walks up to me with the muffler. And so that's where we started at. But he's actually probably one of the best mechanics in the industry now. He's phenomenal. And
Wow.
yeah, and
Amazing.
so I've got,
Jeez, that is
yeah,
cool.
yeah, really cool.
He must be a
And
special
so,
guy though, because again, he was showing his skills even at the cafe, just hustling and solving problems.
uh,
So must be pretty sharp.
absolutely. I mean, you can teach people things, but you can't teach them to be a hustler and
Yeah.
care. And I could just see, just by what he was doing that day, that I need a guy like that. And so luckily I've got 18 employees now, and I've got an awesome handful of guys that seem to really care, and that makes all the difference. The customers can tell, and it makes my
Yeah.
job way easier when you have people that care about what they do.
Um, so when you think back, let's say over your career here, um, were there parts that were especially, I'll say like maybe not hard for you, but was signing big leases the thing that you had to really like transform your thinking to do, or was it hire like for me it'd be hiring employees. I have a really hard time like committing to like somebody else's family and paycheck. That's for me stressful. Or maybe it's something I don't know, like a big loan, or were there parts of the growth of this business that for you were kind of transformational in terms of how you had to like square up to them and then I don't know about overcome, but solve those problems?
Yeah, well, the first locations I just leased, and so signing those leases, I already knew what what the business was doing and what it was capable of, and so it wasn't that wasn't stressful. This last building was a few $1 million, so it was a little stressful signing the loan papers on that for sure.
Oh man,
But
yeah.
my my philosophy is always no debt.
Huh.
So anything that we bring into the company, I mean, you have 30-day terms with a lot of the manufacturers, or they might do 90 days dating or something on bigger programs. But I don't go into debt. Besides this building, the company has never had any debt. I just, if I can't afford it, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
And so I put a lot of the money back into the company instead of taking it home to continually grow it. But
Hmm.
I sleep better. I sleep better knowing I don't owe people.
Yeah,
And
you're not
so,
taking big that
but
type of risk, I should say,
uh,
of stretching yourself out so thin.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But there is stress when when you've got that many people relying on you to support their families,
Yeah.
and just to what you were saying, that yeah, there is some um, a little bit of pressure there to be sure that everybody's taken care of. So.
What's your industry like in terms of there's two things I'm thinking of. Number one, like the recession of 2007, 2008, when a lot of the construction industry, like, hit a brick wall for a couple years. And then even just COVID, that shook up the world enough. And I'm thinking about equipment and landscaping where there were probably a lot of landscapers who kind of washed out and left the town for whatever reason. But maybe there was other people who started mowing their own lawn. So how does landscaping equipment interact with these recessions and the economy and cycles as a whole?
Um, It's actually kind of funny you say that. Those years have always been growth years for us.
Wow.
And the reason being is the start of my company was repairs. Still is the heart of my company. Having good technicians that do good work, and that is where at the end of the day most of my bills get
Uh
paid, and
huh.
paid the best. And that's my particular focus in the industry is repairs. We do probably 2 or 3 times the amount of repairs than any other company in our state.
Wow.
Um, eh, there's companies that do rentals that are better, and there's companies that have bigger showrooms and sales and stuff like that. But repairs is really our niche.
Huh.
But to go back to your question, when you're in a recession, people don't buy new equipment; they repair their old equipment, which is more profitable,
Mm-hmm.
and they also do a lot more projects. If they're out of
Mm.
work, they work on their homes, they do different things, help a brother, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But sales and rentals actually go up in a recession,
Mm.
and in a good economy, then you have a lot more sales and a few less repairs. But um, so really, when a recession, our most profitable part of the company increases,
Interesting.
and then when all things are good, that part still stays good. But then we have sales
Yeah.
as well. So it's we're very fortunate in that respect that we've actually never had a down year. We've always had growth years.
That's amazing.
So.
You've probably seen a lot of landscapers and I'll say like excited like entrepreneurial hustlers getting started in landscaping. I'll say come and go, but I'm sure some of them
Mhm.
showed up, with a pickup and a weed eater and who knows what they've grown it into. Are there people who stand out in your mind? Number one, and number two, what do you attribute the guys who really make it work? That doesn't mean necessarily like making millions of dollars, but the guys who build a career out of it and stick around. What do those guys have in common versus the people who kind of wash out and don't come back after buying all their gear?
Right. Well, being in, owning the company for 25 years, we've seen a lot of guys come and go, but we definitely have some of our biggest best landscapers started with me out of a pickup truck as
Yeah.
probably even before then, on bikes mowing
Yeah.
neighbors' lawns and just growing it. But we've got one, well, more than one, but one of my friends in particular started out as a teenager doing it, and he has I don't know exactly how many, but has many crews, and he's built his company into a multi-million dollar business, I'm quite sure.
Wow.
So yeah, we've definitely seen growth, and there's guys that do really well with it, and there's guys that don't. And some guys I think are just hardwired for business, and if they have a good head on their shoulder and they're hustlers, they're going to succeed almost anywhere they're at. And then you have the other guys that aren't wired that way, that are probably never going to make a good go out of starting something. So it just it really boils down to the individual.
Landscaping's tough because it seems like it's really competitive. In other words, two guys could compete over a lawn for a contract, and it might be like $10 difference. And a lot of times, the homeowner is going to just cut them out for $10. It seems like really a lot of competition, and I don't know how much loyalty there is. I guess for guys for homeowners who are paying one guy for years, but I could imagine that these guys are in some cases having to push their compete, I should say, on price, like almost all the time on every yard.
Absolutely, and we hear that. We don't do the landscaping ourselves; we just do the equipment. But we hear it all the time on how guys come in and
Yeah,
under bid contracts, or even homes, just for a few bucks less. And
yeah,
I'm sure there's loyalty among the landscapers that do really nice work, because they're hard to find, I think.
yeah,
And so if you find one of those guys, I think for a few bucks they won't they most people wouldn't lose them over that. But
yeah, for sure.
um,
And
but
and,
but
and yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of people that aren't legal in the country that come over and do work for next to nothing, that you can't feed a family trying to compete against. So
yeah.
I think it depends on where people are at and what kind of stability they want and what they're willing to pay for better secure work.
Yeah, that's really it. I guess the people who are willing to save a few bucks are apparently willing to take the risk of that person just disappearing and not not coming back to finish,
That,
or who knows what, or maybe grow into a great business. In fact, the landscaper I used for the last several years, when I was in Arizona, oh, he's amazing. I don't know how many crews you have, but you couldn't pay me to use somebody else. I love this guy so much. It's been so fun watching him grow his business, and from his truck, and then I saw him with a dump trailer, and then all of a sudden he had a bobcat, and every time I saw him just like get one, and he's just hustling the whole time, working so hard. He only had like two fingers on one hand. I don't know. I don't remember what happened, but a little fun fact.
that was before OSHA
Oh
kicked in on
man,
lawnmowers.
yeah, exactly. Hey, so speaking
Uh,
of equipment, I feel and I'm aware of like brands and how I feel about what even like landscaping equipment like Echo and Steel, and to me like those brands mean a little bit something different, but that's just as a consumer. Can you talk about the differences between some of these big companies and what it's like working with them, or are there differences, or are they both just kind of big corporate vendors, or are there distinct cultures between some of the big brands that you represent or sell? I guess you don't maybe represent them, but carry.
yeah, yeah. Every company seems to do things a little bit different and kind of have a different philosophy on how they work with the dealers and that kind of thing. But for the most part, they're all very good. Steel, Echo, and Honda are kind of my three main brands that we have other brands. We've got probably another 15 brands that we deal with, but they're the heart of our company.
Hmm.
And Steel is a German family owned company, and we don't get a lot of information or feedback, I guess, from the higher ups in that company. They kind of basically say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the way it's going to be, and
Hmm.
most of it makes sense and is good most of the time. And they're a great company, make great product. But Echo is, I've been back to the factory many times, I've shaken the president's hand, I've got the all the heart of the business that kind of produce and design and everything.
Huh.
I've met them all, and they it's cool because you can actually give them feedback. Went to a conference and mentioned a problem they were having with an ignition coil that we were seeing a ton of,
Huh.
and like within a month saw them make a change in the entire company on that. I mean, it was
Wow.
kind of cool. Steel is a bigger company than Echo, but Echo is just kind of got a all hands on deck. We're working as a team, whereas like Steel, even though they're very good to us as dealers, it's kind of a this is the way it's happening, like it, lump it, leave it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Interesting.
and and Honda's kind of somewhere in the middle of that.
Huh.
But Honda is a very, very good company to work with. But we don't get a lot of interaction with any of the higher ups in that company.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, it's about making a great product for the end user at a competitive price. As a dealer, we've got to be able to make a couple bucks between wholesale and retail to keep
Mhm.
our doors open, and they're all conscious of that. And all of them are amazing at taking care of the customers if there's warranty issues and that kind of thing. And so, at the end of the day, that's what us as a dealer are looking for, and that's what the end user wants.
Yeah.
Is they want to be sure that their product's a good one and it's going to be backed up and it's a decent value for what they're doing. And really, all of our companies, I would say, do a very good job with that.
I didn't realize Steel was a family-owned company.
Yeah,
That's kinda
yeah,
mind-blowing because 'cause they're really
yeah.
big.
They're huge, especially in Europe. And
When I was in Germany in, high school my senior year, and that first week I was an exchange student. That first week I was there, I was feeling, like, homesickness and just culture shock and just kinda, like, really weird for, first time in my life, like, being out of the nest in a different country. And I was in this really small town, and driving into town for the first time, there was a I don't know if it was a repair shop, probably a repair shop, but they had a big sign that said "Steel" and had, like, a little logo of a chainsaw, and I felt like this instant, like, connection to, like a grounding, like, base, like, "Oh, there's my people," which is really funny because I might have operated a chainsaw, like, once before then in my life. My dad had him, he was logging for those years, so I felt like that was, like, this amazing connection. So, it's just funny how these brands, which are just big companies, can still feel like, you get these, like, really personal connections, like you said with Echo, like, the fact that they're listening and communicating makes that logo and that company have a real human feel to it, and of course, they're packed full of probably all of them amazing engineers and super bright, sharp people who are making these amazing products, so it is very human, but it's just a funny thing. I'm really, like I always just enjoy paying attention to these companies that are competing and also, like, interacting in this interacting online and trade shows and all these places you see them. It's really something else. I
yeah, absolutely.
I love your new shop, how they're on those two separate walls. It's just you walk in there and it's just that really epitomizes it. Like how many people behind those products are putting time and energy into making the best saws they can, and then here's like where they actually like go out the door to test and see which one sells more. It's just amazing.
Yeah, yeah. They did thousands of hours that all those engineers and
Yeah.
everybody have into getting them. It'd be wild if you actually could see how
Huh.
much went into each product that's there.
So you and maybe mention this in the intro, so this might be a repeat for somebody or for people listening. But you are in a new building. It's maybe not brand new to you, but I take it since you built it, you kind of put some time and effort into thinking about it and designing it. And I know the parking is about 10 billion times better. But what else did you do in this shop that maybe not everyone would know, but you and your guys really enjoy, or maybe even the customers? What else were some of the main things you wanted in this new building that you didn't have in some of your old ones?
Well, in the first locations, they were just existing buildings that we had to make work. And so when we were looking at this, I knew I had 2 acres to work with when we bought the property that the shop's on, but I was able to actually just sit down with the piece of paper and draw out exactly how I wanted everything laid out, where I wanted the shop, where I wanted the receiving room, where I wanted the showroom, and it just being able to completely design everything to your needs and your experience on what it takes to keep the place running efficiently
Mhm.
was was a dream. You just to be able to have everything flow the way that it should, and not have to work. Like I say, the last building was, we had a 50-yard gap in between the two buildings that you had to run back and forth in between all day and stuff.
Yeah.
it, that allowed for some cool. We actually innovated a whole relay system on that building. Sorry, I'm getting off topic,
No,
but
go ahead.
we had it in the second building where we kept all the repairs, because the customers would come into the main building or the first building and pick up a mower. Well, we kind of designed a system where you just hit the computer and put the what the machine was and the ticket number on it, and it would actually ring a bell over in the other building. It had like a big 80-inch screen
Oh,
that it
wow.
would pop up on with what
Cool.
they're looking for, and it even had a timer, so the guys knew how long it took to get out there to the customer and stuff.
Yeah, cool.
And so different things allow for some expansion and engineering, and some things that we're
Huh.
kind of proud of doing. But as far as this building goes, just being able to lay it out, I was fortunate enough to have a little bit of time while we were going through the 2-year zoning process, to be able to design the building, like I say, the way I wanted. But I incorporated about 10 different building designs that I liked, both outside and inside, and
Huh.
kind of took bits and pieces of what I saw out there architecturally, and was able to design the building, the layout of the parking lot. And if you've ever been into a Harley Davidson shop, they have a mechanics area in the back, and
Yeah.
they have windows lined up so that you can actually see the mechanics and their bikes being worked on, and that it's clean and it's a nice facility. And so I wanted to incorporate that. So I've actually got a big glass window in the front showroom that you can look back, and it allows the customers to see that their machine's being taken care of in a clean, organized facility. And so a lot of different designs from a lot of different people I incorporated into the design and the functionality of it. I actually traveled kind of over around the country for several different shops,
Huh.
that I liked and had heard about and looked online, and got the opportunity to talk to some owners of some other shops of, why did you do this, why did you do that, and got some great ideas on how to display inventory, and how to organize things. And
Oh,
not
wow.
everybody's idea is your idea, but being able to
Yeah.
piecemeal the best ideas, or what I thought were the best ideas from other people's ideas, was a great way to do it for
Was
us.
there some of those shops that were really eye-opening to you? I mean, the country is so different, even in terms of like how landscapers do landscaping. Like it's so different. Like the type when I was in Florida for the first time, and I saw the types of mowers they're using in Florida, I was like, "What is that thing?" They like stand on them. It's like all these like crazy stuff. So, um, separate from the equipment, but were there shops you went to that were really like, whoa, that's different? Maybe more to do with the, I don't know, the geology or how things grow in that area, why that made sense? Or is it kind of all repairs and sales and more or less just, the customer experience when they come in the building?
No, no two companies in this industry seem to be the same or do things the same way. One of the companies that I went back to Chicago, there's a company called Russo's Power Equipment, and they actually had an old converted lumber mill.
Oh,
That they built their shop out of. An absolutely beautiful place. And while I was there, they were bringing in semi loads of salt. It's like, what are you bringing in all that salt for? Well, all
wow.
we're in Arizona. We don't have snow,
Right.
or not where we're at in Arizona, anyways.
Right.
And so, yeah, they parted their slow season, because you're not using a lawnmower.
Right.
They're using snow blowers, but a big part of their business was they sold
Selling
50
salt.
pound bags of salt to people and municipalities
Huh.
to keep the roads unicy or de-ice
Yeah.
them. And so, just seeing what you've got to do to, or what different shops do to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
I mentioned it a little bit ago, but in the Arizona, you have two different types of lawn. You have a summer lawn that's perennial; it'll come back every year. But you also have a winter lawn that will burn off in the summer. So if you want a pretty green lawn in Arizona, you got to plant a winter lawn every year.
Uh-huh.
And so we got into initially you have a machine called a dethatcher, which is a motorized rake that kind of scrapes and gets the ground prepped for overseeding. So we got into renting those, and then we had people saying, "Well, do you have grass seed?" No, but we could do that.
Yeah.
And so over the last, I would say 17, 18 years, we've been selling grass seed. And we sold this last year, we sold about 450,000 pounds of grass seed in October. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's, you talk to shops back east and
Yeah.
they're like, what are you
They're
talking
like,
about?
"What?"
So yeah, I mean, so there's definitely niches that I think you have to cater to. Some of the shops that are near lakes and stuff, they'll get into outboard power equipment
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, and boat repairs. And some of the shops like to work on these little go-peds or bikes. Not
Yeah.
our thing, but
Yeah,
they're
you're right though. Like it's like where you're located. If you like you said, if you're near a lake or a big trail system or something, then there may be as much small engine repair demand for some of those items as there is for dirt bikes or something. It could be the same type of um, shop there. So
yeah.
here's a question for you. You have kind of an interesting background here because you started the business young. You also went to college and understand like what that can offer a person. Although you didn't necessarily use your degree in maybe the way you thought when you started school. I think you told me maybe before it was a marketing degree. Is that right?
Yeah, business marketing was
So
what my degree is in.
I'm curious, how do you advise? I'm sure you have young people asking you from time to time, or maybe your kids, about college, whether they should start working, whether they should open a business. What's your kind of default? You've kind of done all of these things, and what's your perspective on a young kid who's ambitious? Do you generally point them towards college, or do you wait till you get to know the kid, or how do you answer that? If we got someone listening who's struggling with that, what would you tell them?
Well, I would give them the advice that my father gave me as I was starting college because I was not sure what I wanted to do. And he looked me in the eye and said, I don't care if you're a janitor or if you're a bank CEO. The only thing I request is that you do something that you love.
Mm.
And he goes, if you do that, kind of the cards will fall in place and you'll have the desire as well as, that's the what your career is where you spend most of your time. And so if you don't love it, it makes being successful at it hard.
Yeah,
And so that was great advice. And I don't know if there's a direct answer to your question of how there's not a one size fits all answer to that
yeah,
question.
it's true.
But if you have a desire in a field that there's an opportunity for, chase those dreams. I've got my kids are actually going to dental school. Well, I've got one son that's in dental school and a second one that's thinking about it. So
Wow.
their love after sharpening enough lawnmower blades in my shop was I
Yeah,
think they figured out that maybe this wasn't for them. And
yeah,
I'm totally good with that. It's everybody's got to chase their own dreams.
yeah.
But you do have to work hard for it.
You
You can't wait for it just to fall in your lap.
You mentioned about when you were visiting and looking at some of these shops, like taking a part
Hmm.
and a piece from each one. And someone mentioned that to me earlier in my career. I was working in real estate and I wanted to do deals, and I was kind of shadowing this guy for a weekend. And he told me something like that. He's like, "Look, you're not going to want to do everything I do exactly, but there might be one or two things that I'm doing that you really like." And he kind of spelled that out, kind of like how you did, although not related to a building, but just in an approach to business, taking and leaving, the things you like from certain people. And I really think that's like there is so much to that. There's not a one size fits all answer to that question or any of these. But when you meet somebody or even just hear from somebody who's doing something that you kind of can respect and like, there's almost always a piece or part or something from that person's situation that you can take and be like, I'm doing it, the way Todd did in this setting and whatever that may be, and then apply it to your own life. So I think that's really great. And like your dad
Yeah, I
said,
mean, if you're
you love
if
it.
yeah, absolutely. And if you do exactly what the other guy's doing, what's your niche?
Yes.
So I mean, you've got to find something that's filling a need that's not already being met, or that you can do it better. If it is already being done, do it better, do it different. And so that's my, like I mentioned before, my niche is in the repairs. I really focus on that,
Yeah.
um, and I and I personally feel we're one of the best repair shops around. And there's I do rental as well, and there's wonderful rental shops, and rental really isn't my forte,
Hmm.
but it's a niche that works well. But there's other companies that quite frankly do rental better than we do,
Hmm.
but um, we try to be competitive on it. But that's again not the heart of the business.
Yeah.
There's other companies that have even bigger showrooms than ours, but even though I couldn't build mine maybe as big as some of the other companies, my focus was making it nicer.
Yeah.
So, and we get our sales reps that come in that travel the country, and almost without fail, this is the nicest shop I've ever been in.
Yeah.
So that's cool when you get somebody that travels the industry and says this is one of the nicest shops I've ever been
It's
in.
a
So
it's
that's
kind
kind
of
of
it's
cool.
impressive to say the least. It's kind of like it's like it's unexpected when you walk in to it really hits you when you just see all this equipment laid out and polished. It's really impressive. Hey, and speaking of equipment, what has been the impact with COVID and all these supply shortages? Are you guys short? Because when I was at your shop, there was mowers and equipment everywhere. It didn't look like there were shortages, but maybe that's like sleight of hand, or what's actually going on.
That is a little bit of a magician trick that we're playing. Yes, we are short, but instead of having 10 different SKUs of a particular product. We have 3 SKUs of it,
Huh.
but we have a bunch of those because we can get those. So we don't have the width of inventory that we'd like to have, but we just stock a lot of them.
Okay.
So in a spot where we may have had 3 different models, we've got one model 3 times there,
Got it.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah.
so there are definitely models and units that are very difficult to get right
Why is
now.
that? What's making those ones hard to get? Do you have any idea? Or which
Um,
models? Is it like the pro stuff that's hard to get, or is it something more obscure?
You know what? There's no real rhyme or reason because I mean, from a manufacturing standpoint, you think this model should be just as easy to make as this model,
Yeah.
and yet there's certain models that have been on back order forever.
Huh.
And there's it's industry wide. You hear everybody, you go in and try to buy things these days, and half the people say, well, I can't get it,
Right.
especially if it's specialty.
Yeah.
I tried to buy some tires for a dune buggy a couple days ago, and they said, yeah, you can't get tires for those. We've had those on back order for 8 months right now.
I
I
really,
mean, for
wow. Gee.
yeah, and it's crazy. So it's
Huh.
not just our business, and I certainly the beginning of it started with COVID,
Yeah.
and then I don't know if it was a labor or a product issue, but then everything started getting backed up in the ports, and then there wasn't enough trucks and truckers to once things did land to get them to us, and now we're hearing things as far as materials. The manufacturers can't get enough of whatever widget it is that they
Yeah.
make a certain component out of. We just heard last week that one of the factories that makes the wiring harnesses for steel was in Ukraine, and
Oh,
and it's
wow.
probably no more. So I
Wow.
think it's just a combination, but I think it did start with COVID.
Yeah.
Not getting into the political thing at all, but I think politics plays a big portion on where energies and programs and incentives and
Yeah. Well,
taxes and stuff are being pointed as
yeah, no
well.
doubt. If
So,
there was one of those companies that had to shut down due to lockdowns because it wasn't essential, you said wiring harness. That's as an example. Maybe there was a wiring harness company in the U.S. and they're like, "That's we can live without those," and they shut down as not essential. Fair enough, but no surprise when 2 years later there's a shortage of wiring harnesses and some empty shelves, I guess, in your shop.
yep,
That's so
yeah,
interesting.
and I wish I had an answer for that even when we ask our suppliers and stuff. So
Yeah,
why is there? Well, we don't know. They're just all on back order, So
yeah.
even they don't seem to always know why they're not available. At least our sales reps.
And
But
it's easy to think. I've been watching on YouTube these videos lately with my kids of like how it's made, where there's machines making even kind of bland products like PVC pipe or steel pipe. Things that we see all the time. Or last night we watched one about making metal roofing, and I actually just ordered some metal roofing. And when I was placing the order, they asked me these questions like, okay, which profile do you want and which color? And I just kind of picked it like as if I was, ordering what kind of bagel I wanted, like what's the difference. But then you watch that video and you realize, I was looking at it like, oh, geez, if I pick whichever pattern, it's a completely separate machine and a whole different set of tooling up that has to happen. And so it's easy to think like with the saws on your shelf, like these ones are available. Why can't they just make those ones? Well, it's probably complicated. Maybe they have a whole building that just makes that one saw start to end. And then the other saws get made in 5 different buildings from parts and pieces. Nothing's as
Yeah.
simple as it first appears, especially when it's like clean on a shelf and kind of just looks like somebody just, all you got to do is you just take it off the delivery truck. What's the problem? Just, where's that truck? It
Yeah.
came from
I mean,
somewhere.
it's just hard to believe. I think Americans in general aren't used to being saying no, you can't have that. And
Yeah.
we're so accustomed to being able to go down and get whatever we want whenever we want, and it's a little bit of an eye opener,
It's
maybe a little bit of a reality check
It's
for some
wild.
of
And
us.
I was thinking about my kids where we like order so much on Amazon, things just show up. Like literally anything we kind of need, we can usually have it so quickly. And when I was a kid, people would say money doesn't grow on trees. And I remember thinking about that. Oh, that'd be interesting if things go on trees. But this world we live in now where things kind of magically show up isn't so much different, at least from like a kid's point of view, where things kind of just show up and they're almost always like perfect, because you can research exactly what you need. But that is not normal. That's
Right, right. I think we've all been a little bit spoiled in years past, so
spoiled is
maybe.
is the word. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming on our show here, and for the listeners, I'm gonna on the YouTube version of this, I'm gonna roll some video that I took when I was in your shop a few weeks ago, and
Love that.
this might be a redundant story for the listeners, but I'll tell you because I haven't shared this with you, but when I was in Arizona a few weeks ago, I was going to your old location because I'm in the market. Actually, I bought it now. I bought one of these combi weed eater units, and I was trying to decide whether to get the combi or the regular. And I was going to go talk to one of your guys there and get some advice. And I was blown away because a 1 mile before I got to Mow Power, the new Mow Power was over here. I didn't know that happened. I guess it must have happened just after I left is when it started. But anyways, I walked in and my mind was really blown. And so I had my camera gear with me. I was doing some other filming. So I filmed a little bit there, and all of these conversations we've had about your shop, there's going to be some footage in the YouTube video. So if you're just listening in your car, I really recommend you go watch that. It's really something. And I think my favorite part is the parking lot. I mean, truly, it is just a thing to behold. It is. I can't imagine how happy your long-term landscaping customers are. There was like 2 spots for trailers before, and I remember sometimes I would even have a trailer and I just have to drive by. There's nowhere to park. I'm not going there. So you must have some happy customers having solved that parking.
Oh, for sure. We actually, with the parking alone, we had customers that we hadn't seen for a few years started coming back. They just said, "Yeah, we couldn't deal with your parking anymore at the other place." It
Jeez.
was it was such a so chaotic that, yeah, it's it. I don't know if I'm offended or not. That the most
Yeah.
impressive part of my business is my parking lot, but that's all right.
No,
No, I'm just kidding.
it, it
But no, it is amazing the ease of getting in and out, what that does for people. So, and
maybe
I don't have to break up any fistfights in my
yeah.
parking lot anymore, which is a bonus for us.
Maybe this will be the last question I'll ask you. Now that you've gone through this development process, and you said there was a 2-year rezoning process, which I personally know a lot about because I did a development in Mesa. It was so hard. My wife and I were literally pulling our hair out and like just crying. It was so hard, and that may not have been your experience, but the property we were proposing. Actually, we proposed several properties over the years, and they pretty much never liked them. But in any case, you decided to build in this case rather than move into an existing building. So, knowing what you know now, would you do things different, or what advice would you give for some business owner who's kind of weighing? They need that they've outgrown their space. Should they build? Should they buy? What do you know now about that whole process that you did not know, 3 or 4 years ago?
Um, Well, it's been almost 7 years now in
Oh, and then wait,
getting this place built,
in the new oh,
but
geez. Okay, well
yeah,
then
in
you definitely
2015, I bought the lot, but then it took 2 years to get the zoning part of it actually done,
wow.
and then a couple years to build. So yeah, it was kind of a big deal. Actually, it may have been a little bit longer than that,
Oh,
but
wow, I didn't realize. Wow, that's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, it was
it's
going on. We left Arizona in 2019, so you were deep in the process by that point. It just takes is behind the scenes, I guess. So,
yeah. Well, when we first we wanted to stay in Mesa, and we're actually on the way to the dump, which is a huge bonus for our business because landscapers have to go up and down this road all day long. So we knew we wanted to keep it on the path to the dump, and there were very few spots that were available. So we did have this 2 acre lot that we knew of, and the problem was it was zoned not commercially. And cities now, if you're not familiar with the zoning thing, if you've got a business, they want you on a corner. They don't want you in the middle of, main streets. And so this one's right smack dab in the middle, and it's surrounded by homes. And so also not ideal for commercial. So when I went in and proposed this to the city, sat in a room with you kind of schedule an appointment, and they all the different
mhm,
entities meet, whether it's utilities or they've got all sorts of different people over logistics of the roads and all the stuff, and pretty much all of them said no. They pretty much laughed at me when I proposed to them what
yeah,
I wanted to do. Yeah, it's just zoned wrong. And it did a little more research and stuff on it, and found out that there had been two other people wanting to build on this site, and both of them were homes. One was an apartment, and one was, I forget, is it H2 housing or something, low income housing. And all the neighbors threw a fit about it,
yeah,
saying, "No, we don't want that. We don't want that here." And so I started thinking, maybe the neighbors, the neighborhood might back me up on this. So I actually went and knocked on every door that surrounded the building. um, I don't know how many, but it was a lot of doors, and got names and phone numbers, and told them what I was doing. Most of them, because my old shop was only a mile away,
yeah,
knew the company, and most of them were already customers. And so got 100% backup from the people in the neighborhood, saying, yeah, that's a much better alternative for us. We'd love to have you here.
yeah,
And so I actually got a list of all of these people that had bitterly opposed the other two projects that they tried to put here. And
mm,
I got with the city council member, or city councilman that's over our area, which happened to be kind of a friend, and said, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to do." And so he actually went in with all of these people, all their names and stuff, saying, "Hey, this is a something that we can put on this lot that the neighbors aren't opposed to."
yeah.
And that's actually what changed everything. I mean, it was still hard. There were still parts of the city that were hard to keep happy, but um, long and short is it was a story of persistence. If I would
Wow.
have just initially taken the no that they gave me, I would have never been able to build here. But just kind of taking it another angle and working with the city, there's several things on the design that I had to change to keep them happy that I would have rather done differently. But at the end of the day, the city had open ears to listen, to change a little bit and flex,
Yeah.
since it made sense, and the neighborhood supported me. So it was we have a lot of people to be thankful for in both the city and the neighborhood. I mean, city of Mesa has been awesome to us as far as customers and supporting the business.
That's amazing. Well, and like you said, the neighbors got to be pretty happy because that's not you don't want to roll those dice too many times of like who's going to move in here because it's like grass is always greener. Like you said, God, I can't even think of like a really obnoxious business. Maybe like a like a granite fabrication shop. I say that because I'm doing a video about a granite shop. It's pretty noisy. It's industrial, so
Sure.
but apartments are noisy also.
Shooting range.
Yeah, shooting range. But
Duck and
apartments
cover every day.
where there's like a lot of people living, that's also tough because you might be a great community, but if there happens to be one like kind of frat house college tenant who's partying every night, well, that's a bummer if you live across the street. So a lawnmower shop would probably be pretty decent for those people who share the border with you guys. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming.
Absolutely.
I love your business. I'm a huge fan, been a long time customer, and always puts a smile on my face going in there. I love everything about it, especially the name. I don't know who came up with it, but it's the best name for a shop, period, for a lawnmower
I
shop.
I grew up watching Tool Time. So if
Okay.
you're familiar with that show, his motto was everything needs more power.
Amazing.
And his name on the show was Tim Taylor. My name happens to be Todd Taylor, and so it was
Mow Power.
friends call me Todd the Tool Man Taylor,
Got
and
it.
so he was Tim the Tool Man Taylor,
Got it.
and so it was a pretty easy change to go from more power to Mow Power. So people
Amazing.
still think I'm a veterinarian sometimes. My license plate says Mow Power. Why is it Mow Power? So
That's awesome.
they wouldn't want me operating on their cat, though. It would be ugly.
No, it would not be the best use of your time. We'll put it that way. All right. Well, hey, have a great day. Thanks so much. We'll link to your website. If you have any other social media accounts, let me know. We'll put them in there as well, so people can take a look at this and keep doing your thing. And I hope a lot of up and coming landscapers, get the courage to dig in. You separate from equipment, but it's just the best. Not the best, but it's such a quintessential and great business. You can start it when you're a kid. You can grow it as big as you want. You learn so much about billing and customers and working hard, and it's just the best. I love it as an entry point. My son just mowed our yard for the first time this last week, and he loves it. He's excited about it. It made me think when I first started mowing how much I love everything about it. So I'm a fan, and thanks for taking time out of
That's
your day
great.
to speak with us, and we'll do it again one of these days.
I appreciate it, Nate. Thank you.
Well, thanks for sticking around to the end, everyone. Um, I'm going to go mow right now. The sun has come out since this podcast started. The grass has been growing the last couple of days. I've got a new weed eater I want to use. In fact, that's one of the reasons I had this conversation. When I went to Mow Power a few weeks ago, it's because I was kind of in the market for a new tool. I didn't know whether to get the single tool or the multi tool. I've got it now. I've used it like once or twice. So I'm going to mow, I'm going to weed eat, I'm going to blow, and I'm going to run a time lapse so you guys can see how much fun I'm having. Try not to be too jealous. All right. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks again, Todd, for coming along and being with us. We'll link to his website. And if you're ever in Mesa, Arizona, it's worth stopping by just to behold the place if you like equipment. All right. Catch you next time.